Hey, what's up, guys? In a past video, I talked about doing a kind of a larger scoped discussion on aquaculture, and I was kind of procrastinating just a little bit on that because it's a really involved subject, and there's a million tangents that it could go on. So I didn't really know the best way to approach it. It could be anything from, I guess, like the macro scale discussion, which would be more about what really is aquaculture? What's the overall global benefit of it industry-wide? And you can take that discussion all the way down to the micro level of I just want to propagate some frags for my home aquarium to offset some of the bills in this hobby. So the breadth of the discussion could take any form really. So I didn't really know how best to approach it. So I guess I'll still do like a cursory review of it, and we'll get into it now. Okay, so let's take this macro, overall, overarching look at aquaculture. So aquaculture is pretty much any type of growing activity, whether it's like fish, shellfish, corals, that's done in a controlled setting. So it could be out in like outdoor ponds even, all the way down to like the smallest nano aquarium if you're doing some sort of propagation activity. I think that it is it's an important thing for this industry as a whole because we suffer from a lot of bad PR, like really, really, really bad PR. If you look at the entire reef aquarium hobby, it is the smallest subset of an already small segment of pet ownership. So you look at dogs and cats and whatnot, vast majority of all the pets owned in this country, it's probably about like 90% like cats and dogs and that sort of thing. So the whole fish keeping aspect of it, the aquarium side, it's relatively small. Amongst that relatively small subset, I would say that less than 1% is even marine. It would probably be mostly freshwater, goldfish, tetras, that sort of thing. And then within that already small subset of saltwater, you're talking about maybe 1% of that marine side is going to be corals and anemones and basically reef aquarium in general. So you're talking about the ittiest part of an already small industry. To put it into perspective, one of my friends that works at one of these like, big international pet conglomerates basically laid it out that we make more money selling dog collars in 1 month than the entire aquarium industry sells in a decade. I mean, it's not even close. So, yeah, very, very, very small slice of this pet pie, let's say. We take a lot of blame for whatever's going on in the news. So you might have seen on social media, there was like a scientist or something that said that the Great Barrier Reef is completely dead. Not true, but it's likely to be dead in my lifetime. And it's completely our fault or something like that for that. So, of course, I'm being facetious, I'm joking. If you took away the reef aquarium industry, if it just kind of vanished one day, the Great Barrier Reef very likely would still be dead in my lifetime. The numbers of how our industry compares to, let's say, global fishing or global energy, I mean, especially coal production in coal mining and production in Australia, come on now. There's no comparison. We're not even a fly on the elephant's back. We're like a molecule at that point. But we're the obvious scapegoats for everything that's going wrong. And in that sense, so given that political backdrop, aquaculture, if it does nothing else, it's a wonderful thing for awareness and public relations because that's one of the biggest things that this industry suffers from. Like I said, it is the perfect scapegoat. It's a small, tiny group that harbors all the blame. So it's perfect. It's like those guys are the problem. So any effort, whether it's breeding fish, whether it's propagating corals, is a good step in the right direction. Okay, so one question that's probably should be asked is how much of a difference does aquaculture really make on a global scale? In the interest of keeping it 100% real, probably not very significant. I'll tell you why. So I have this little infographic on my phone here, so I'll just use this as a reference. So uh, every year, the marine aquarium fishing activity, it's about 70 tons of live fish. And I'm going to throw corals in there as well. Who knows? Because again, it is probably going to be a very, very small subset of whatever is collected for the marine aquarium hobby. So it's about 70 tons. So when you compare that to global fishing, let's see, the bycatch, which means the stuff that never makes it to market, never is intended to be caught in the first place, but is caught anyway, is 7.3 million tons. So you're comparing 70 tons for the entire aquarium industry to 7.3 million tons of stuff that's being caught, killed, and thrown away. The entire fishing market, it's collecting almost 81 million tons a year. But we're the obvious scapegoat because we actually have these in our aquariums. So it's kind of a rough place to be. So does it in the grand scheme of things, is aquaculture the answer? I don't think it is. Like I said, if the entire like reef aquarium hobby just happened to disappear one day, did the 7.3 million tons of bycatch go away? No, of course not. And so there's actually there's actually fish that were never on the menu ever that are either now endangered or completely extinct just from fishing activity and bycatch. So I forget the name of the particular fish, but it's like a blobfish, I think. It's like this really kind of an ugly looking bottom-dwelling fish. It's been basically killed off to near extinction. I think it's an endangered species right now, and it has never ever once been eaten. It's always just been the victim of bycatch. Of course, the counter argument to that is perhaps the aquarium, uh, perhaps the aquarium hobby. It's a good thing for public awareness, and to some degree, I agree with that because there's only it's only the reef aquarium people that can look out over a picture of a healthy coral reef and really kind of put what they're seeing into like numbers and value, right? So, I mean, even like a board of trade or like ecotourism folks can be like, oh man, this reef is worth $1 million a year in tourism. I mean, we can actually specify like, yeah, every single inch of that coral is probably $50. And so we're looking at $1 billion worth of coral just in sight here. I think that of all the people on Earth, we value the reefs more than anyone. And I think that's a great thing. Speaking about awareness and education, though, I don't know. That's a tough call because if if you're a diver, you kind of know this already, but people and reefs don't really mix. If you want to see great reefs, you kind of have to seek out the places with no people. Anytime that people start hanging around reefs, you get more people wanting to go diving, you have more people wanting to go snorkeling, you start getting some artifacts of their visitation on the reefs, and that's almost never a good thing. It's kind of a shame, but if you see a bunch of resorts and things like that, you can pretty much guarantee that the reefs right outside that resort are going to be complete trash. And my personal experience with that is in Kauai, in one of the Hawaiian islands. Some of the worst diving I've ever seen was in Kauai. But from what I understand, there are patches of Kauai that are surpassingly beautiful for diving. And lo and behold, it's because it involves a very, very, very rocky boat ride for 4 hours to get to some of these locations. And nobody wants to even take you out there because it can be kind of treacherous and kind of miserable and everybody gets seasick. But if these people are willing to make that effort to get out there, it's supposed to be ridiculously spectacular. So again, it's like, if you want to see the best stuff, find the places with no people. So again, is what we do great for the exposure aspect alone? It's give or take. I mean, do we want more people to go out there and explore and enjoy the reefs? Maybe not. But at the same time, look at it as ecotourism. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I kind of laid it out. I mean, for you right there. Is the awareness, education, ecotourism aspects? Does that outweigh the impact of actually being around and causing damage to what you're kind of looking to protect? So I'm curious to kind of to get your idea. So again, comments below. Let me know. Okay, so I prattled on just a little bit about that macro argument. So yeah, probably longer than what I expected to do. Once this is edited down, who knows how much is going to be left. But when it comes to aquaculturing on the micro scale, just kind of like within the hobby, I think it's a great thing because now that we have the internet, now we've kind of grown into the whole internet age. Prices are going up. Prices are going up a lot. Like when I talk to my collector friends and importer friends, they kind of are lamenting the fact that across the board, wherever they're getting these corals from, they have Internet Explorer, they have Mozilla, they have Safari, they have Chrome. They can get online and see how much people are paying for coral pieces in Europe, in Asia, and obviously the United States. And they're like, yeah, you're charging $100 for this stuff. And for decades, these collectors in like Fiji or in Indonesia, they were charging pennies, like literally pennies for this stuff. And now it's like, oh, you're charging $100 an inch for this coral? Yeah, price just went up. We want $50 of that. And that's completely changed the landscape of how much the cost basis of these animals are. So sometimes people are kind of like, ugh, these prices are trash. I mean, oh my God, I mean, this is so expensive now. Yeah. And that's why aquaculture is so good, is because in order to actually bring that down, you kind of, in a way, have to create your own ocean here and grow everything. And that's really the only way that price is coming down. When you're looking at international shipping rates, when you're looking at the cost of collection itself, I think in the future it's only going to go up. So the only way that prices are going to at all be in check for the average hobbyist, it's going to be through the activity of home propagation or even commercial propagation like we're trying to do. You may or may not have noticed, but on Tidal Gardens, on the website, I mean, we never specify what is and what is not aquacultured. There's really no consensus as to what aquaculture even means. And if you ask one experienced hobbyist, they might have a completely different definition than another. So I didn't really want to wade into those waters at all because, I mean, we purport our operation to be very aquaculture focused, but we don't have everything here being aquacultured. There's just certain corals that, for example, there's no benefit to cutting them, like scalemia, for example. Even assuming that you cut something like that, a big, large, meaty, large polyp stony coral in half, so what? So maybe both pieces survive, but then you have two kind of like semicircle pieces, and they'll never turn back into a circle in your lifetime. So what's the point of cutting it? I mean, worst case scenario, both pieces die. Best case scenario, in 30 years, they both turn back into circles and are actually sellable because people don't buy scalemia that are not round. So you can't simply propagate everything you want. A lot of SPS, a lot of branching, large polyp stonies and soft corals, sure, you can propagate the heck out of those. But stuff like tracheiphyllies, you really can't do a whole lot with. So, long story short, there's almost no 100% aquacultured places if they want to keep the entire spectrum of coral offerings. The other thing is, even if something is propagated, there's like two spectrums about the perception of what's actually going on. So on one side, you have a chop shop, which import stuff, frag it immediately, and sell it as fast as possible. And that activity, while, I mean, obviously that is propagation, right? That's extremely frowned upon within this industry, within the community. I mean, people call them chop shops, and in a very derogatory way, obviously. Not far from that is somebody that is trying to do it a little bit more sustainably, um, but it's a spectrum. It's like, how many generations of sustainable operation does that really require? So some people have kind of uh, just said, okay, well, maybe it's like 2 generations, to basically to the point where every single polyp has never seen the ocean, or maybe it's like a full year, maybe it's 10 generations, but it's always something arbitrary. And but after that arbitrary threshold, it's like, this activity is what we want to support, and chop shopping is the devil. You suck for doing it. So I don't know. I'm actually curious to know what you guys think about that, because I've heard the entire spectrum. It's either you're just like uh, a dirty chop shopper, or you are a conscientious coral farm. And like I said, there's this gray area in between, and that gray area is not a lot different. And so I make no effort to even label what I do as aquaculture. I mean, okay, I should back up just a little bit. We're going to be like a state inspected aquaculture facility, but that's kind of a different thing entirely. Um, the state of Ohio actually did come check out the place, but all the laws here, as it pertains to aquaculture, they're only interested in freshwater. Um, they want to make sure that nothing that we grow here is going to get out into the river and start taking over the place. So I don't think that we're going to have that problem. I mean, I'm guessing that in the Ohio winter, something in our tanks is going to live a whole nanosecond out there before it dies. Not a big worry. And so having like a state aquaculture license, it is what it is. But on, yeah, like I said, on the website, there's too much of a gray area as to what is and what isn't aquaculture. So I don't really get into that mess. But yeah, I am curious to know what you guys think on that topic, because like I said, it's a very polarizing it's a polarizing designation, and I've heard the entire spectrum. But just overall, I'm curious to see how things have changed over time, and this is a large enough community that I'm sure I'm going to get some good feedback on that. Okay, so lastly, I should probably talk a bit about folks that want to get into, um, I guess, aquaculturing more than just as a side thing, like basically more than just a frag tank at home. If you wanted to actually do something to pay the bills, uh, first thing I can suggest is, do not quit your job. Please don't. Please don't do that. Um, Sometimes it's seductive, because if you go to like a frag show or something like that, and your first experience there might be, oh my gosh, I did really well at this thing. I mean, I made a few $100s. This is great. If I went to one of these things every weekend, I bet I could make close to what I did in my part-time job or something. I don't know. But they get some really good experiences early on. And they kind of make this second step of, then, okay, I'm going to scale up my operation. I'm going to get a whole bunch of tanks down in my basement. If you're going to do this, please, please, please do not quit your full-time job. It is a grind, and people kind of don't realize all the pitfalls in this. The biggest thing that people don't quite realize is that this is a very seasonal hobby. So oftentimes that positive experience that they have selling happens in the wintertime. And that is about 70% of the selling season happens in that fall winter time. And then it just dies come spring. It goes away entirely. And that's when the struggle happens, and it vanquishes a lot of these startup operations. It's really only when you go through several full years of that grind that you can get a sustainable operation going. And that can't really be done immediately full time. I mean, it takes the early part of that grind is pretty brutal. And the hardest part, it's never just growing the coral. I think a lot of home aquariums can do that successfully. It's the selling of coral part. Um, that's going to be the biggest challenge in general. And you have to get to a certain size before you can handle that seasonal drop off in the summer. So if you're going to do this, I would say by all means do it for fun, do it to offset the cost of the hobby. But again, don't quit your day job no matter how much you hate it. Because yeah, it's a rough go. It took us here at Tidal Gardens probably 5 years as like an on again, off again thing to even remotely break even on just the overall just overhead. And then it took another 5 years to get it to a point where it could actually pay me anything. And then now to have it be sustainable and to hire people, it's definitely a tough road to go. So yeah, by all means, give it a try. Because like I said, I think that aquaculture, it's a great activity. It's a great thing to kind of offset the costs. And I think it's actually kind of fun. But to do it as like an income replacement thing. Oh, and by the way, it's like I'm a single guy. I don't have a family or anything like that. I mean, if you have like a house payment, car payment, you're still hopefully not, but you're still paying off your wedding or something like that. And you have a significant other in play, and you have kids and dogs and cats. Just don't. It's not. And I bet in the comments already somebody's already saying, "Oh, he's just trying to limit competition." Yeah, whatever you need to tell yourself, buddy. But it's not going to turn out well for you. I can guarantee. Every single year, people dive into this, and it's not something you should dive right into. Take it slow, because the best thing that could happen is you learn all the tough lessons early on when the stakes are super low. When the stakes are your house and your car and your marriage, those are too high. Yeah, I think that pretty much does it for aquaculture. I can't really think of too much other stuff to talk about. If you guys have questions, by all means, put it in the comments. Uh, Hopefully I get to it. But if not, I'm sure somebody else out there has tried a lot of what we've been talking about here. So hopefully, yeah, by all means, chime in, let me know your experiences, and good luck propagating. Talk to you guys later.